My wife thought burning down our house was the perfect way to win a divorce. She figured she'd destroy me and come out on top. But everything she tore apart was just the beginning of her own downfall. And trust me, what happens next will completely change how you see revenge. Let's start from the beginning. My name's Alex, I'm 29, and yeah, I'm married. Although honestly, if this is what married means, I don't know what divorced is. My wife, Marina, she's 27, and if there were an Olympic event for hiding contempt, she'd take the gold. On the outside, we seemed like a normal couple. House, car, a 25-year mortgage, the standard package. But the truth is, our marriage had been falling apart for a while. So loudly even the neighbors probably knew. Yet I was still shocked when she suddenly said she was filing for divorce. Well, maybe not suddenly. It was more like one of those moments when you see a train coming at you, but you still hope it'll somehow veer off the tracks at the last second. Spoiler alert, it didn't. We lived in this cozy little house we bought together, thinking it would be the place we'd raise kids and grow old. The typical dream, right? Turns out to her, the house was more of an investment than a home for forever. She decided she was tired of me, tired of our life. And one day, she just dropped the bomb. She wanted everything. Yep, you heard that right. The house, the car, and what killed me the most, my damn money. At that point, my brain froze. Wait, what? The house we bought together? The car I worked my ass off to pay for? And now she's saying she wants to take it all? But you know what hurt the most? It wasn't just a, I want to leave you. No, she was planning to bleed me dry. Leave me literally on the street with one suitcase in one hand and a mortgage bill in the other. Think that bothered her at all? Nope. She flat out told me, you were useful while I needed you, but now it's your turn to suffer, honey. She wasn't even trying to hide the fact that she was going to milk me for everything I had. The house, the car, and then she started eyeing my savings like I was her personal piggy bank. I mean, I could have understood if she at least pretended to feel bad. You know, something like, oh, it's just circumstances. I didn't mean for it to go this way. But no, she laid it all out there like we were discussing what movie to watch, not how to rip the ground out from under me. So, divorce? It's like dancing with sharks while you're tied up and there's a crowd cheering, but not for you. Marina decided that a simple let's part ways wasn't enough for her. No, she went full throttle, like she was competing in the Divorce World Cup and gunning for the championship trophy. Her first move? Hiring a lawyer who, I'm convinced, chews contracts apart with his teeth at night and then checks in the mirror for bits of other people's finances stuck between them. This guy was a shark in the worst way. He immediately went for blood. As soon as he got his hands on the case, he spun the narrative like I was the worst husband on the planet. Oh, and he was so convincing that even I started to believe it for a second. In her version of the story, I wasn't just bad, I was a nightmare. You ever hear accusations like these? According to her, I ignored her emotional needs, which, to be honest, sounded more like doesn't buy me the new iPhone than anything serious. But to hear her tell it, I was this tyrant locking her in the basement and forcing her to count our mortgage payments. And then came the legal gymnastics. Her lawyer twisted everything I'd ever done into proof of my neglect. Check this out. I worked late. That meant I was ignoring her. I bought us vacation tickets. Oh, that was me trying to bribe her into staying quiet. If I stayed silent, apparently, I was emotionally oppressing her. Dude, what the fuck? I didn't even know I was that evil. It was all bullshit. The truth was, all these years, she had been the one pulling the strings, manipulating me like a puppet. That was her thing. Act sweet, like she just won the Wife of the Year title, then bam, emotional roller coaster. One day she's soft and cuddly, like a purring cat on your lap, and the next, she'd lose her mind because I didn't put a spoon back in the right place. And now, this sweet kitty decided it was time to claw my house, car, and apparently half my soul. Yeah, she tried to paint me as a monster, but it was her plan all along. You know those people who smile in your face and stab you in the back the second you turn around? That was Marina. Only now, she was stabbing me with a lawyer instead of a kitchen knife. The court process dragged on like old gum you should have spit out ages ago. Every time I thought it was finally over, more drama would pop up. Marina was getting angrier by the day, like someone was slipping her hot sauce with every meal. She'd come home with a face like she'd just eaten a lemon and decided I was the one to blame. Her evening routine became a classic. Storm in, throw stuff around like she was in the dish throwing Olympics, and start screaming about how I ruined her life. Seriously? Girl, you chose this path. But in her version, of course, I was responsible for all her problems. At one point, I half expected her to blame me for the weather. Alex, did you make it rain just to piss me off? And then came the real nightmare. I found out she had filed to claim the house outright, using fake documents and false testimony. Dude, how did she pull that off? I guess she had some hidden talents in crime. My lawyer said it was like I'd been erased. No trace of my name, no trace of my rights. It was like she decided to wipe me from her life completely, but still keep the house. Honestly, I would have admired her persistence if it wasn't aimed at screwing me over. So I started fighting back, determined to prove this was all a lie. I dug through documents, hired people to gather evidence, and felt like a private detective in a B-movie. The whole time, one thought kept running through my head. There's gotta be a way to prove she's lying. And sure enough, I found loads of evidence. But Marina? Oh, she wasn't about to back down. This was her personal crusade, and the goal was to destroy everything we had. Her hatred for me had crossed the line long ago. It wasn't just disappointment anymore. It was pure rage. She didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to leave nothing but ashes behind, for me to look at and know she had won. Every new court date, every new meeting, it was like watching someone who took joy in seeing me struggle to save anything. She wasn't just mad at me, she was thriving on this, like it was her personal revenge party, and I was the only guest. Nobody, including me, could have guessed Marina would go this far. Who could have imagined she'd choose the burn everything to the ground option? One night, while I was away on a business trip, one of those normal days where you just try to relax in your hotel room after work, my phone started blowing up with calls. I figured it was something small. Maybe the neighbors complaining about parking again or something. But when I finally checked the messages, it was chaos. Neighbor after neighbor was yelling into the phone, "Your house is on fire!" What do you mean, my house? Which house? Our house. It took me a few seconds to even process what they were saying until I started getting pictures. And yep, it was our house. Burning. Completely. I bolted out of the hotel like lightning, packed my things on autopilot, and rushed back. The only thing running through my head was, what the hell is happening? When I finally made it home, what greeted me was the smoldering remains of what used to be our house. My legs almost gave out when I realized this wasn't just some random fire. Something felt off, like it was too deliberate. It hit me like a punch to the gut. At first, I tried to convince myself it was some freak accident, maybe an electrical short, some kind of household mishap. But when the fire department and police started their investigation, things got way worse. Neighbor security cameras caught a car parked outside the house just hours before the fire started. And guess who was driving? Yeah, you got it. It was her. Marina, my lovely wife. Honestly, I never even thought she was capable of something like this. But as they say, the facts don't lie. Cameras, her car, her decision to torch everything we had, literally burn our house down. At first I was in total shock. Why the hell would she do this? But then it all clicked into place. It was her revenge, her plan. She didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to erase me along with the house. This wasn't just a family feud anymore. This was some crime movie level stuff, and I wasn't the hero. I was the guy getting all the bad luck. And there I was, standing in the middle of what used to be our life, realizing she'd succeeded. Well, the day finally came when the justice system decided Marina had crossed the line. A few days after it was confirmed that the fire was intentional, she was finally arrested. You should have seen her face. She tried to act like she didn't even understand what was happening, like it was all some dumb joke. Yeah, Marina, this isn't a prank show. This is real life, and you just landed the lead role in a story about arson. Of course, she started denying everything, straight out of the How to Handle Getting Caught handbook. It wasn't me. Alex set me up to make it look like I did it. Seriously, did she actually think anyone would buy that? Let's break this down. I was out of town, and her car showed up on camera near the house when it was burning. Sure, I totally orchestrated all of that just to frame her, not because she lost her damn mind. Dude, it was so absurd even the detective smirked when he heard her story. But the real comedy started after that. She decided to go on the offensive and tried to bribe witnesses. Yep, you heard that right. She actually thought she could buy her way out of this mess like she was shopping online. Problem is, you can't fool the cops, especially when they have your texts. Yeah, that's right. The texts where she literally discussed how to make the fire look like an accident. Make sure they think it's an accident, she wrote, clear as day. You didn't need to be a genius to figure out she had a plan. You see, she was so confident in her genius that she didn't even bother covering her tracks. You should have seen the police reading those messages, then looking at her like, seriously? That was the moment she realized the game was over. But of course, she still tried to weasel her way out till the bitter end. Her whole Alex set me up story just collapsed under the weight of the real evidence. Once it all came out, the bribes, the arson, her pathetic attempts at an alibi, it was clear she had dug her own grave. And when they led her out of the house in handcuffs, I just stood there thinking, well, guess the show's over. Marina's trial was a drama worthy of a reality TV show. If she could have, she probably would have asked for spotlights and challenged the judge to a duel. The whole thing was a nightmare for her, to say the least. She tried to wriggle her way out in every possible way, but things just kept getting worse. As soon as the evidence started piling up, her calm facade cracked, and she started screaming at everyone like the whole world was conspiring against her. You should have seen the circus. She was shouting in the courtroom, accusing everyone of being against her. This isn't a trial. This is a setup, she screamed. Honestly, at one point, I started to think she actually believed she was living in some soap opera, where she was the lead, and everyone else was just there to mess with her. But reality, it turns out, isn't a TV show, and the people in that courtroom weren't impressed with her improvisation. Her lawyer? Oh, that guy was not enjoying the show. The look on his face said it all. How did I get roped into this? At some point, it became clear that he was just giving up. When all the dirty details came out, the fake documents, the texts about the arson, the attempts to bribe witnesses, I'm pretty sure he thought, yeah, there's no way I'm winning this one. And one day, he just threw up his hands and quit the case. He said something like, I'm sorry, but I can't continue with this circus. Yeah, even a lawyer shark couldn't handle the drama. And there I was, sitting in the courtroom like an audience member at a premiere, just watching her world crumble as she tried desperately to hold on. Seeing her like that was almost surreal. Her rage and hatred were so intense, it was like a neon sign in the dark. It seemed like she was ready to tear apart anyone within a meter of her. But the most interesting thing? Nobody, absolutely nobody, believed her anymore. She was flailing her arms, shouting accusations like, "You're all in on this!" But her desperate attempts to regain control just looked pitiful. This was the end of the show. All her theatrics meant nothing anymore, because the truth was out. And even if she had memorized her lines better, no one would have believed her anyway. I just sat there watching thinking, well, Marina, this is the final act of your performance. So, the grand finale of Marina's self-made nightmare was nothing short of a total collapse. In the end, she got exactly what was coming to her, like the plot twist in a thriller where the villain finally gets their just desserts. Marina was sentenced to prison, and let me tell you, it wasn't some cushy slap on the wrist, you'll be out in 6 months deal. Nope, the judge had a look on his face like he'd been waiting for this moment, like he'd seen through all her games, her lies, and her manipulations, and decided it was time for her to face reality. And trust me, reality hit her hard. After all the chaos she created, the arson, the fake documents, the desperate attempts to cover her tracks, no one had any sympathy left. The judge didn't just read out her sentence, he practically dropped the hammer. I swear, I saw his eyebrow twitch when he hit her with the verdict. It was like even he couldn't believe she had the audacity to keep up her charade for so long. But hey, when you set a fire to someone's life, literally, try to bribe witnesses, and lie to the entire legal system, what did she expect? A pat on the back? Let's just say if Marina's ego were a skyscraper, it would have come crashing down in a blaze of humiliation loud enough to shake the entire courthouse. Her arrogance was like a ticking time bomb, and the moment it exploded, she had no one to blame but herself. It wasn't just the arson or the fake documents that got her. It was her unshakable belief that she was untouchable. She thought she was smarter than everyone, that she could manipulate her way out of any situation. But the moment the cops laid their hands on the evidence, her phone messages, the witness bribes, the timeline of the fire, it was game over. And yet, even after the sentence, Marina wasn't ready to admit defeat. Oh no, she kept on fighting. She tried to appeal the decision, as if her prison sentence was just some minor inconvenience, like a parking ticket or a small fine. Every time she filed an appeal, it was swatted down like an annoying fly. The legal system doesn't take kindly to being lied to, especially not with the level of arrogance she displayed. She walked into that courtroom thinking she could outsmart everyone, and now she was stuck in a cell, watching all her appeals go up in smoke just like our old house. Now she's sitting in prison, her life in ruins, just like that grand plan she cooked up to destroy mine. It's funny how life works, isn't it? She thought she was writing the script, controlling every plot twist, but in the end, she was the one who lost everything. Karma, as they say, has a way of balancing the scales. And trust me, Marina's scales were seriously out of balance. She thought she was in control, that she could micromanage the destruction of my life, but it turns out she couldn't even manage her own downfall. And me? I'm just sitting on the sidelines, watching as the pieces of her perfect little plan crumble into dust. There's something deeply satisfying about seeing someone who tried so hard to ruin you end up being the architect of their own destruction. I don't need revenge. Life already took care of that for me. Now, as I look back at it all, I can't help but think, well, Marina, you've got plenty of time to reflect on your choices now. Her prison sentence is a long one, and I'm sure the walls of that cell are giving her plenty of space to think about how everything backfired. The queen of manipulation, the mastermind behind the chaos. Now she's just another inmate, another number in the system. All that power she thought she had, gone. And while she's stuck in there, replaying every moment in her head, I'm out here free and rebuilding my life, far away from the wreckage she tried to drag me into. As for me, honestly, things turned out way better than I could have imagined. While Marina was tangled up in her endless battle with justice, desperately trying to claw her way out of the mess she created, I was doing something she never saw coming. I was starting fresh. Everything she thought she'd destroy, all those plans to rip me apart, became the stepping stones to my new life. I sold the land where our old burnt house once stood, and let me tell you, it was cathartic. There was something deeply symbolic about it, like letting go of all the weight I'd been carrying for years. Imagine finally tossing out that old ragged jacket you've been dragging around because you thought you needed it, only to realize you're so much better off without it. Yeah, that's exactly how it felt. I didn't just sell the land. I sold the memories, the arguments, the manipulation. All of it went up in smoke, just like the house. And honestly, watching it go didn't bring any sadness. If anything, it was like I had finally shaken off the last piece of her control. The weight of our past lifted, like I'd shed a ton of bricks I didn't even know were crushing me. So, what did I do next? I moved on, literally. I bought a new house in a completely different city. A fresh start. New house, new life, and best of all, no Marina. You know that feeling of real freedom, the kind where you're not constantly looking over your shoulder, waiting for the next blow to hit? That's what I've got now. I'm living in this peace that I didn't even realize I was missing until I had it. It's like stepping out of the eye of a storm and suddenly realizing there's blue sky. Calm, steady, and finally free of all the chaos. Marina thought she was going to ruin me. I mean, she had it all mapped out. Some grand, twisted revenge plot, like a psychological thriller, with a dark twist where she gets the last laugh. But here's the thing. The joke's on her. What she really did was set me free. Free from her games, her constant blame shifting, and the endless manipulation. It was like breaking out of shackles I didn't even realize I was wearing. Life without the mental gymnastics of trying to keep up with her emotional roller coaster. That's the kind of freedom I didn't know I was allowed to have. Now, I wake up in my new house, with new plans. And the best part? No more living in fear that someone's going to burst in, start throwing dishes, or kick off the next round of drama. Marina thought she'd take everything from me, but in the end, all she did was give me the chance to rebuild. And trust me, I didn't waste it. So yeah, like they say, thank you next. And as I sit here, looking out the window of my new home, I realize one thing. Sometimes the destruction of the old is the best thing that can happen. I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving.